Proudly brought to you by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Transformation agenda, one of the biggest priorities for President Jonathan is infrastructure. And of course, ICT is popularly called now the infrastructure of infrastructures. So ICT is being seen as a holistic part of the infrastructure we're trying to build: power, roads, transport, the ICT infrastructure, the fiber optics, the base station that will carry the data that we need in terms of the digital economy that we're trying to create.
And then what are the key priorities, though? You've just mentioned the digital economy. Now we know that broadband penetration is increasing in Nigeria. That sounds to me like a key focus going forward, definitely amongst the telcos.
You're right, broadband penetration is increasing, but it's still very low, even when you compare us to African countries. It is expensive, and it's not as ubiquitous as it needs to be. So our first priority is to facilitate the rollout of broadband across the country. The second priority is really looking at how we begin to utilize that broadband infrastructure, and that is applications and opportunities in financial services, in health, in education, in agriculture, basically using that infrastructure to drive economic development. The third thing that we're looking at is government itself. Government is probably one of the biggest users of, or biggest procurers of IT today, and we want government to be one of the biggest users or utilizers of IT today. So as we transform Nigeria into a digital economy, government is going to be at the forefront of that. So putting government services on the internet, enabling citizens to interact with government on the internet as well.
Right, so what exactly then is the government doing? Because we know it's really the private sector that is going to bring this huge investment, but the government, obviously, like with most things, has to create that enabling environment. So what exactly is your ministry looking to contribute to that?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The investment runs into several billions of dollars, and we expect that will come from the private sector. And really what we're doing is, like you said, providing the enabling environment. And what does that enabling environment mean? It's basically the policies, the regulation that attracts investments, that makes a particular industry more attractive to investors. When you look at the telecoms industry, what has made it so successful? It's stable, consistent policy, it's a competent regulator, and that's given investors the confidence to come into the industry. And what we're hoping is that as we have been successful in voice, we want to have the same success in data, again using the same mechanisms, policies, regulation, and also transmit that into the IT industry, which in a sense has not been as successful as the telecoms industry.
And then can you be more specific? Because I know your ministry has been said to quote some, if you like, ambitious targets for job creation. But practically, how are we going to achieve that?
I think that there are a number of, when you look at the industry, almost every single sector of the industry, you look at the telecoms industry, you look at the software development, call centers, value-added services, almost every sector of the ICT industry in Nigeria has the capacity to create jobs. And what our role is actually to facilitate that, the creation of those jobs. So for instance, when you look at software developers, these are people that are creative. A lot of them are quite young. They're creative. They don't need big infrastructure. They're literally sitting in their bedrooms and creating applications. And what we're trying to do is to create, is to develop funding for these individuals. They don't want loans. These are people that thrive with venture capital. So trying to create venture capital funds that will actually support these individuals as they develop this software. And again, this is already going on, by the way. That's one of the things we're looking at doing. As I said also, call centers. One of the things that we will be doing is actually facilitating the growth of call centers. Both, first of all, looking at the domestic call center industry, and hopefully as we begin to grow and get competence, actually looking at offshoring, being able to offshore our call center services to companies abroad. These are sectors of the industry that you can actually create a number of jobs, not easily, but you can create a number of jobs, particularly in the segment where we see the highest levels of employment, the youth, 18 to about 35.
I'm very interested in the software area because I think, like you mentioned, it has huge potential. We've seen that in places like India, where software has really been a key part of their ICT sector. Tell us more about the plans to really vitalize that aspect.
The software industry is one that we see a lot of potential in, and that's because of the number of mobile subscribers that we have right now. So when we're talking about software, it's really not only a PC or computer software. We're looking at software that would drive the usage of mobile phones. That is already going on right now. How are we going to do that? There are a number of areas. It's first of all understanding what the needs of the market are, because right now applications are being developed, but we think that there's a big wide space. So actually encouraging research into the market needs concerning applications, and then secondly, creating an enabling environment. By that we mean, for instance, we can call them digital havens, technology incubators, whatever you want, but actually facilitating the creation of technology incubators all around the country where you have fast internet, you've got power, you've got access to people that are interested in the software that you're developing. So bringing together the ecosystem of software development in one location, so to speak, so that the users of the software or the eventual purchase of the software are actually meeting and interfacing with the developers of the software. So that's one way in which we're trying to